Hello, teammates, and welcome to The Goal Diggers, a program where we discuss stories of leadership and motivation, with sports serving as a metaphor dedicated to daily grinders, corporate athletes, and go-getters. This is Simone Haldon, digging in with my co-hosts, Reddy San Agustin and Robbie De Vera. And we are your resident Goal Diggers. So in our previous episode, we had a conversation with Philippine women's football icon Mariel Benitez Havaliano, who shared with us her 3 tips on how to set yourself up for success. So her first tip is be surrounded by supportive people. So Mariel shares the importance of having a supportive community who understand your effort or why you do what you do. And the encouraging environment allowed her to pursue the things she wanted and motivated her to put in the effort. And second, invest in yourself. Wearing many hats, Mariel often needs to be on her toes and keep up with the different things she needs to know for her different roles. And she frequently challenges herself to learn more and even try new things to equip her for her current and future needs. And third, set goals for yourself. So personally and as a leader, Mariel visualizes and sets goals to set the direction for her own endeavors and for the group she works with. And with those goals in mind, she is able to take the proper steps to reach them. And to make sure she follows through, she creates motivational triggers with the use of visual reminders, words, or team rituals. So Mariel's tips can be a good foundation or a simple recipe one can always go back to when you're building a career or challenge yourself to try or start new things. And speaking of starting something new, today we're going to dig into the story of someone who dared to go out of his comfort zone and start something on his own. He turned an idea and a logo into a blockbuster new store concept. But of course, before we delve into that, I wouldn't be able to do this without the help of my fellow goal diggers. So Relly, Robbie, what can our teammates expect from this episode?
Thanks, Simone. Hey, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Goal Diggers. We're back again tonight. This time, we have with us a top dog belonging to one of the top retail giants in the country, who has also made a name for himself in the sports industry. Stay tuned as we dig in with this celebrated individual. I'll say no more as I will pass it on to Robbie to formally introduce our special guest. Robbie, start it off.
Hey teammates, we're excited to welcome our next guest, who is an accomplished businessman and without surprise has a solid background in sports and is an avid sports person. This fellow gold digger of ours is currently a multi-sport athlete and certainly one of the movers in the sports and fitness industries in the country. So I'm so happy we're guesting our friend Toby Claudio onto the program. So please stay tuned as we dig into his life story. Do the honor, Sim.
Thanks, guys. So today we have with us the president of the Quorum Group of Companies, which includes Toby Sports, Toby Sports Arena, Runner, and Urban Athletics. He's also the president of Total Sports Incorporated and the former president of the Junior Chamber International Manila chapter. A sportsman and a getting things done practitioner, it's an honor to have him here as our guest today. So let's all welcome the Toby Claudio. Hi, Toby.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me on the show. No, it's really an honor and my pleasure.
It's great to have you here, Toby. So tell us, what have you been up to lately, especially since the start of the pandemic?
Since lockdown started, I've at least gotten back into the groove. A lot more time to work out. My favorite now is really cycling. I've been biking a lot. Started only last May. I only got back to it last May, and it's now like a 3 to 4 times a week thing for me. I do long rides on Saturday, all the way up to Tanay, Morong, Baras, Tagaytay. So really enjoying biking now.
How's it like biking now in the middle of the pandemic?
Well, it's my stress relief. With all the stress that I have to deal with the pandemic and making the business cope with the situation. It's great to just get out, and burn some calories and just be out out to get some fresh air and sun.
So how's the business so far? Especially since the lockdown and Not a lot of people are going out. So how are things going?
It's been challenging. Being in retail, I'm sure, I speak for a lot, who are really going, going through something that we've never had to before, especially those in the F&B and retail industries. Mall traffic is still down, but we've all had to find ways to cope. So important. Leadership is so important now. Having good leaders on my team helps a lot, because there's so many things that we have to deal with, that brought about by the pandemic. So yeah, it's been exciting, to say the least.
That's great, no? So I'm sure, like, how this home fitness revolution has risen because of this pandemic. So I'm last we talked, you're really making sure that your organization is prepared to serve the demand, no? And we're happy that you're sort of like capturing at least this moment, at least to even help out your staff. So from my end, just very curious, and it's necessary to bring the audience on board on your journey into sports, no? So how did your love for sport begin?
Oh, well, I grew up playing sports, thanks to my dad. My dad was an avid sportsman. He played tennis. He was really crazy about tennis, and he taught me to play at an early age, 5 years old, and I was addicted to it. I used to watch Borg McEnroe games all the time. I slept with a Donne wooden racket beside me, because I was such a big Bjorn Borg fan. It rubbed off on me, and I grew up around the store. Uh, it's really strange having a store named after you, which happened because my dad started a toy store when I was 5 years old. But his real passion was sports. So about a year later, he changed it. It was 1980. He changed it to sports, and so there, I had a sports store named after me. And I grew up around it, no? So from a very early age, his passion for sports rubbed off on me. From tennis, I went to baseball, badminton, football, and then, everything else, basket, volleyball, then eventually triathlon, and cycling now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Now, so I guess we have your dad to thank for the pivot of Toby's into like a sports brand. And Toby's is really one of those brands that is, as athletes, the three of us here, we really grew up with Toby's as one of the outlets we really source our equipment from. So tell us about you used to play baseball as well in your UP days, and some football.
Yeah, yeah. I played UAP baseball, shortstop. And yeah, my qualification for that was I played Little League back in the US. And I also played football a lot. No, that's how I got my ACL though. That was my athletic background in college. But ironically, in high school and grade school, I really wasn't much of an athlete. I loved sports, but I wasn't really that good at it, or got not good at any specific sport. But it just goes to show that you can pick up something even later in life. And I continue to try to improve in all the sports I play. One of the sports I picked up late was also basketball. So I consider myself still learning, still learning and trying to get better at that too. And golf, which is so hard. Yeah.
Great, very well rounded. If I'm not mistaken, Tob, I think in football you played keeper, right? That was your position, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I was keeper. Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah. So I would watch you all the time and try to steal some of your moves.
No, man.
I don't have your length though, so you're so much taller and longer. Your wingspan so much wider. So.
All good, man. I think to each his own. Each has their own capabilities. So besides, focus on retail. So what other role does your organization play, especially now? With sports and activities coming around. I think there's some involvement of Toby Sports in the PSL. Tell us more about it.
or our advocacy has always been for youth sports. So it hasn't been very, it's not that visible, but what we've been promoting and supporting for the longest time is youth volleyball, badminton, and tennis. Because those are some of the more neglected sports. Of course, basketball, football have a lot of a good solid base and foundation. No? So we tennis is close to our heart, obviously. No, so we've been doing a summer tennis festival, one of the biggest junior tournaments in the country. For more than 10 years already. Then we also do junior invitational volleyball, the Toby's Junior Invitational Volleyball. And we also had the Toby's Junior Badminton Championship. So, but all of that's on hold now because of the pandemic, though. So we're glad we were able to participate in the PSL Beach Volleyball by fielding a team. But yeah, I can't wait for team sports and organized sports to really be allowed again, and all these leagues resume, because especially for kids, kids already had limited chances to play and show off their skills before and get recognized. So now that you can't hold those tournaments, it's there's less of an incentive for kids to train and to improve. So I really feel that's one of the reasons why we love doing those tournaments, because it helped show off the kids who are really up and coming, and they get recognition, they get trophies. Not all tournaments give trophies, some with limited budgets, but we made sure to give out, trophies, and big trophies and medals, really, because that's really what we really want to encourage kids to keep honing their craft, keep at it, so that they don't fall out, and they keep improving in their sport.
It's great to hear. I think this whole grassroots development,
Yeah.
which all of us are all, believe in, because you really want to find the next talent, locally,
Yeah.
and make sure, it's just we keep it here, and create that development. So going back to the PSL, how's your team doing?
Oh, they're good. They're good. They made it. They made it to the quarters, I think. Yeah, yeah. And they're for the first time. That's we're pretty happy. Yeah, yeah.
That's great. That's great. We hope to see more of more exposure for Toby's now in all other sports besides just volleyball. So now I'll turn you over to Sim for the question.
Yeah, so hearing from what you've shared with us so far, you've been involved in so many things, and you're a top executive, and you're one of the top, you're one of the sports and fitness industry's movers, and you're evidently like very self-driven and constantly aspire for success. So where did you get this approach from, and what got you started on this path of high performance? Were there any external influences, or yeah, tell us more about that.
There was ironically, there was a phase in my life where I felt I was pretty unproductive. I was busy working in the family business already. But I always felt some regret, or I felt like I was not making the most of my time, and I could have been doing more. And after like about 10 years, I had this chip on my shoulder that I never started the business. Toby Sports was something my dad started, and I had never done anything of, never started anything myself. So around about that time, about 08, 09, I got injured, actually. And it was pretty bad because, my back, I suffered my first slip disc. And I think in that year, I think I had 3 episodes of slip disc. And it was so bad that I went to a doctor, and he said, you have to stop playing all your sports, all the sports that you used to enjoy. Nothing, the only thing I could do was walk and do some light jogging. And I started learning how to run. So I got into running, and that led me down a path to become so much more productive, and actually led to the start of Runner.
So it's funny because, I mean, an injury led to something to a great concept like runner, right? And the thing is, I mean, I'd like to dig deeper into that, how it actually got there also. But you know, you're the
Mm.
president and officer of several large organizations, and saying that you're busy is an understatement for sure. And how do you manage to accomplish so much work, so much at work, and even with your passion in sports with the same time that everybody has?
Um, that came about because when I started my running and then eventually multi-sport training, swim, bike, and run, I was forced to train for like 12, 13 hours a week. And because I was training so much, you really had to learn time management. No, um, and the other thing was, I got such a huge endorphin boost that I became so much more productive. I was primed for to be so much more productive because of all that blood that probably flowed through my brain at like as early as 8 o'clock in the morning. It really uh, brought me up for the whole day. And yeah, I really think that that injury and eventually going from running to training for triathlon turned me into a much more productive executive, and helped me start so many new things actually.
So, regarding starting so many things coming from your fitness habit, so what kind of effect did it have? You know, discovering your fitness habit, and you know, how did it affect you? I mean, beyond being able to manage your time and getting you pumped up for the day, what other effect did it have on you?
Um, well, again, like I said, I think it's no coincidence that a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs are triathletes, because you really have to develop these habits to train that often, that hard. No, really follow a strict program, really follow strict diet, um, and um, and just push through when things are it's not easy to finish those workouts, sometimes twice a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and finishing the race, so that I think really developed a muscle for me that didn't wasn't really was underdeveloped before that. No, and I think that muscle was willpower. No, um, before triathlon, parang I wanted to do something, but I was too lazy to get started. But it also coincided with me discovering a book, a book called Getting Things Done. And I guess I was so pumped up. I finally wanted to start something of my own. I learned the Getting Things Done system from the book by David Allen, and I started using that system. In fact, one of the first things I did use that system for was to one of the goals I put there was finish a triathlon. And the first thing I put, the first to do I put was learn how to swim. So under that I put find a swimming coach. So yeah, so when I ended up learning finally how to swim, and then eventually from less than 200 meters to 1.9 kilometers, no, open water, it got really got the ball rolling, and I was eager to figure out, okay, what's the next thing I can put on this getting things done list, no. And I was telling Robbie that that's how Runner started. Runner started because again I had that chip on my shoulder that I'd never started my own business, and so one day I just put on getting things done, start a new business. I really didn't know what I was going to start, and then I put down a step, look for ideas for new businesses on the internet, which led me eventually to find the Runner logo, which became the start of Runner.
It's very interesting how all of that led to to runner even. And what I like about what you mentioned about the importance of developing habits and how eventually you find you having your fitness habits, your daily regimen, led to you also finding a program that works for you, like the Getting Things Done program. So, and now we'd like to dig deeper into what supports these habits and helps you follow through on your plans. So pretty much your life hack to overcoming bouts of unproductiveness, which Robbie and Relly will dive into more. So, Robbie?
Thanks, Sim. So, lots of notes from my end. The things that I like about what was discussed so far was the whole bit on the importance of time management and how developing habits really makes an impact in being productive in the day. And I like the insight on having a lot of industry leaders, CEOs, executives really getting into triathlon and developing that willpower muscle, as you put it. No? So, there's a lot to learn there, and maybe for people like us who are into team sports, I do understand that yeah, it can be addicting, when you get those endorphin highs and when you really want to achieve so much also in the same day. I also liked how you discussed the book Getting Things Done, and you've been an advocate for it. We'll talk about that later. Also, your whole bit on the importance of next steps. Again, we'll talk about it later, but these are solid tips that I've gotten so far from what has been said. So, going back to how you talked about developing good habits, is developing systems, as you had told us in our pre-discussion, no? Systems that work for you, as you put it. And without expanding on it, parang it seems like an IT programming or manufacturing jargon, actually, right? Mm-hmm. So, can you help expound on what you mean by developing systems?
I think, well, just what I learned along the way was, you get a coach initially to teach you like how to swim, what the proper stroke looks like. And then you just have to repeat it. You just have to keep doing it over and over till you get it right. There's so many examples like that in sports, no? Tennis, since I played tennis, watching Agassi's forehand over and over and over. And that was validated by a book I read. I think it was Power of Habit. No, yeah, it was Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. One of my favorite books of all time, next to Getting Things Done. And he quoted Tony Dungy, the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Bucks, yata, before, no. Who's a big believer about systems and habits, and his quote was, champions don't do extraordinary things, they do ordinary things, but they do them without thinking, no? They were the habits that they learned. And the more I saw that in sports, parang I realized that, hey, why don't people do this for work? And there's no such thing as a system for work. Well, people aren't taught the system for work, and I think, all those principles that those coaches teach you for sports can actually be applied to work, no? And I picked it up also from my triathlon training, where, my whole training session is structured, how many minutes to do this. So, from someone who was not that organized before, when I picked up the Getting Things Done system, my to-do list became super high-tech, organized by project, by next step, by due date, by context, by date, and it was all organized through my laptop and my phone, and synced between my laptop and my phone. And I did that even if I was, super lazy to do to-do lists before, because, I just realized it made my life so much easier, and helped me work so much faster. And it really removed the resistance or the friction. I couldn't be lazy because it was too easy to just pick up my to-do list and figure out, okay, who am I supposed to call? And there's a list of people make calls to make, while I'm in the car going to the office, or people to email or emails to reply to are all already organized by the software that I can just reply to them one by one. So those systems I picked up because of ano nga, I think trying to adapt what I learned from triathlon training and the Power of Habit, the book itself really changed me a lot, no. Um, and I realized that those habits I picked up in sports can actually translate to what I do at work.
That's great, no? So, totally agree that business is like a sport, and you do need to use the learnings that you get in sport to really apply to work. Some things I like what you said just now. I want to reiterate it for our audience is that the system is basically doing ordinary things without thinking. So the power of habit, right? So from what I know of like habits, it's the body's way to try to conserve energy in order for you to do things, automatically.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
so that's
right,
super
right.
important. I totally agree with that as well. The other thing you brought up is on the importance of how to do things properly. So when you got coaching for your swimming, when you got coaching for your running, I think these also do come into play because you did mention to us in our pre-discussion that nobody actually teaches us how to work properly. So all
Right.
these productivity habits, you have to do on your own. And I love how
Yeah.
you advocated for it when you teach your staff on how to do things the right way, like an athlete, as you put, how you
Yeah.
go on programs like this one to teach what you know. So super super great advice. I also like how you said that you're also using tech to help you get productive, and I'm hoping that we made your tech list on things to do. So that's how we made the show possible. No? So we probably ended
Yeah.
up in your list of things to do. So moving forward with the questioning, I want to deep dive a little bit about your you touched on it already on your Ironman journey or your multi-sport journey. So you credit it kasi with changing you with regard to how you work and well-being. So little deep dive on it. How did it happen? No? So how did training force you to maximize everything? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, coming from I can't really say I was super fit. I was fit before, coming from a baseball background. Don't want to knock my sport, but fitness wasn't a big thing for baseball. We spent most of the time doing batting practice or fielding practice, and running wasn't much of a we weren't that pressured to run. So I only really got into a very a big into a cardio regimen because of triathlon. And when you get that much cardio, 2 3 hours a day, it really has physical manifestations on you, physical and mental, maybe emotional too, manifestations that really changed me. I lost maybe 10 pounds. My body fat really dropped to single digits. But more than that, I can really say that parang mentally I became much more parang my drive increased so much, no. Because I was just so ready and raring to go after a morning workout. So I would work faster. I would get things done faster. I would make decisions faster. When I talk to my people, I'm in a better mood. I don't I take on harder things without hesitating too much. And I wasn't like that before. No, I think I noticed it nga when I was suddenly getting so much more done. But again, it also coincided with my again when I discovered that, hey, all these things that I learned about the sport, especially swimming, biking, and running, and I had coaches to teach me that. I never had a coach to teach me how to work faster. So I think those coaches really came in the form of those two books, Power of Habit and Getting Things Done. So the two authors, Charles Duhigg and um, Power of Habit, and David Allen, really became my coaches for productivity at work. So the physical combine the physical benefits of training every day, 6 days a week, with the mental benefits and the learning I had about productivity and work hacks. Um, really helped me, get so much done in that just 2 3 year period lang. I think 09, 010, and 11. I started two businesses, which was runner and urban athletics. The first two retail concepts that I came up with, and finally got that chip off my shoulder. That Toby's was started by my dad. I'd never started anything, and runner really took off. It was we opened it at a time when running was taking off, and I used that system. I used getting things done to bring it from idea, actually from just a logo to the store of the year. For Ayala Malls. In just 1 year. So without the system, without those two books, I don't think I would have been able to do that.
That's great. No, so with regard to the runner journey, you also even became like the distributor of the maybe region, if I got that right. No, before we deep dive into runner though, little input from ourselves that I keep telling Simone and Relly this. Like I totally appreciate. Agree with you there on rigorous cardio regimen. Like when I ran my first half marathon, I was already tanking I was hitting the wall now on the 12th kilometer. I'm like asking myself life questions like, what am I doing? Is this worth it? Like, but I agree with you there that through training, you really reap benefits in terms of physical, mental, and emotional value, right? So you do get stronger. You just need to put in the time, and maybe with proper guidance from like coaches or like proper techniques, training techniques, you will get there. And we learned this from our previous episodes also, especially with Mary Joy Tabal, our Olympian runner. No, so Mary Joy's easy day is 17 kilometers. So that's every day. That's an easy day for her. So the hard days are like 30 kilometers and above. So you can imagine because she's a marathoner. I also love the whole bit on. I want to reiterate this for the audience. No? So physical training plus the mental training plus the work hacks is basically productivity, and it's your productivity secret. So I totally love that. And I wanna that's how I wanna deep dive right now on getting things done because you've embraced it all the way to the tech side, which I find now very very interesting, especially from you, right? So you've gone as far as even downloading the app, the task manager, then you categorize your emails, you have keyboard shortcuts. I mean, very interesting tips. Can you share us all these little things that you do to get yourself productive in a day?
Yeah, the software, it forces me to do all those things. Because to use the software properly, and I have it on my phone, no. Anytime I think of something, anytime I have an idea or I remember something I need to do, whether small or huge, something like, oh yeah, I forgot I want to do a race abroad or something next year. I just put it down. And it forces you to categorize. What you need to do today, what do you need to do someday, it's just all there. And then on a daily basis, I do it twice a day. End of the day and in the morning before I start working. I just take a few minutes to organize everything, and the discipline is just really figuring out, making sure that everything you want to happen just has a next step. It can be a very really trivial next step, no, but as long as there's a next step, then you know that thing's gonna move forward. Too many times in the past, I've had a problem where I wanted to do something but never got around to identifying a next step. So it never got off the ground, never got started. And a few years down the road, you realize, how come I never did this? And the real reason is because, I never just tied myself down and figured out next step. So like now, my software has like 20 projects, roughly 15 to 20 projects going on at the same time. All should have a next step. So most pretty much have a next step. And they're all moving. As long as I do one thing for each of them a day, at least minimum. Of course, there's a lot more steps lined up already, and I try to. So the sport I play during the day at work is trying to check off as many of those as possible. And I try to do it really really fast. And the fastest way to do it is do all your emails at the same time, one after the other. Do all your calls one after the other. Read all the stuff you need to read one after the other, and it's like a production line. So from someone again who wasn't really organized that way, you can imagine how much more productive I became because of that.
That's great. No, super solid tips from the book because I did browse through the book, and it really teaches you how to compartmentalize like for like tasks so much so that you can, because it takes time for you to shift from one mindset to the other. What they're saying is it takes you 20 minutes to shift from one thought to another thought process.
Right.
So the
Right.
book actually teaches us to like categorize work into what you can do now, what you can delegate,
Mhm.
and what you can do later. No, so it's really
Right.
packaging the next steps and making you realize how you can structure your day so much so that you do become productive. So it's super
Mhm.
helpful because badly put, it's like you gamified project management, right? So it's trying to tick
Exactly.
off as many
Exactly.
boxes as you can. Yeah, and
Exactly. Yeah.
super helpful, especially on how some days you're not motivated and you don't know what to do next. But when you have that like list of things already mapped out in front of you, then you know what to do, and it makes it easier to go on without feelings or emotions, without that motivation. So totally
Yep.
solid tips right there.
Mhm.
And there's more to share, no? So like we want to hear more about that runner journey, and I take it over to Relly for his bit. Thanks, Toby.
Mhm. Sure.
Thanks, Rob. Very insightful, Tob, and you know, you just really you blow me away and become you're usually the local David Allen right there.
Hmm.
With all the experience you have with all this getting things done, and I
Mhm.
was telling Sim last week I tried reading the book and actually or even listening to the audiobook. I was like, how does he do it? It's just really too technical to try and
It sounds
absorb.
nerdy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
nerdy. It's
sounds
nerdy.
pretty nerdy. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think you've embraced it, and that's something that we admire. And everything that you do when you set a certain goal in work and in life, you almost make sure that everything is done in an organized manner because of the system that you place, right? But
Yeah. It also helps me make sure I don't forget like my wedding anniversary. Make sure I get something for the wife.
that,
Do
that
my
is
chores at
something you
home.
shouldn't forget.
Yeah.
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 Okay,
Yeah. So it saved me in many ways. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. So I think I want to let's backtrack a bit. Huh? Let's say going back to your how you made it
Mm.
big in
Mm.
triathlon.
Mm. Mhm.
Because you mentioned that these are the things you did and everything, but the way you're talking, the way you're communicating, it's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I mean, and I listen to you. Wow, that's an expert right there. But for someone who just really wants to get into something, let's say triathlon, right? Um,
Mhm.
what were the steps? I mean, great thing starts from small beginnings, right? I mean,
Mhm.
the small steps that you had to make. So, take us through that journey? Like, were there any obstacles, any challenges? What were those steps? No, how small they were, and what did you do to follow through to actually becoming a successful triathlete?
Oh, gee. Let's qualify successful. I'm not the fastest. I'm not like I don't place in my age group, but the fact that I came from not being able to run at all, and being told by a doctor na you can't do any of these high impact sports, because your disc is pretty much worn out. Discs are pretty much worn out na. To being able to finish 70.3. Um, and all the benefits that came with it. I think the fact that it was such a long shot that, hey, your doctor just told you can't run, you want to finish a triathlon. But that's what I said to myself. I said, let's figure out a goal that's gonna be really hard. And I didn't know how to swim at the time. And let's face it, running, and it was picking up, and I was putting up runner, and I said, I have to do this. I have to learn the sport. I have to get into the lifestyle, so I can really relate with our consumer. So I have to do this. I have to learn how to run and become a triathlete. So it really started small. Like I said, I had to learn how to swim first. I had to learn how to run also. It turns out that there's really a science to running form. And I'm a big believer that, if you want to be good at the sport, you really have to develop the right technique, learn the right techniques first, be efficient. And turns out that running, there's really a way to be efficient. No. And that's the whole mission of Runner. In the stores that I started, Runner and Urban Athletics, especially Runner, we wanted to provide the expertise and teach people how to become better runners, not just sell them merchandise to they can use for running. So yeah, we so the goal naman for Runner was, or for the new business that I wanted to start, was create a concept that would be considered world class. I said, not just that I wanted to start a new business. I said, we're going to start a new business if we can come up with a concept that will really be considered good enough, best in the country, and maybe even why not even shoot for best, in the world. So for Runner, I went to the extent of doing research around the world and visiting the best running specialty stores muna around the world. No, so I ended up going to New York, LA, Boulder, and then so happens I also got to go to Tokyo. So those are all meccas of running, diba? Boulder being a mecca of elite athletes. Even lolas do triathlons in Boulder. So some of the best running stores in the world I was able to see. So I think that and again, I just happened to put it down as a next step. Research, and if you want to put up a world class running store, you have to see some really world class running stores. So I put it down as a to do, and I found the reason to go, and was able to go and check them all out. I also put down a goal to find a running brand that was really worth introducing to the country, and I ended up going to Boulder to get that brand, and that became a sign also. So I put goals out there, and also to help push me forward. If I end up getting to accomplish that, I also use it as a sign that, hey, maybe we should keeping on doing this, because things are falling into place, and I use it as building blocks to get to that goal. Yeah.
For the viewers, curiosity, I think you mentioned this in your last discussion. Of course, you take it out to the next level, that you're able to visit New York, try to get some inspiration on how to come up with with the store, the concept store itself. But Runner itself, how did it start? I mean, what did you put in mind? You wrote it down on a piece of paper, right?
Yeah. So it started very innocently. Start a new business, and the first step was research ideas on the internet for new businesses, and that's the only thing it was. And after a few minutes, I landed on a site that was selling logos for businesses to help you start a new business, that were unsold logos. And I found the Runner logo. It was exactly as it looks now, the ones we used for the store. The way it was spelled, the logo, the icon, and it was for sale for like $1,000. And I made an offer for 300. I ended up buying it from apparently I later found out, from a kid from Indonesia who said it was the first time he ever sold the logo. But that's all I had. So I ended up buying a logo for $300. And that's all. That it wasn't a business idea yet. And then actually a month later, I said, hey, you know what? I bought the logo, but I want to start a new business. Maybe this is the new business. So I said, yeah, why not? It's a good logo for a brand, for a product line, and for a store. But at the time, our running sales were like less than 3% of our total volumes. So science did not yet point. This was like '08. Science did not yet point that running was going to be a huge thing. But I started learning about running. I started running myself, and I said, you know what? If you put up a store that teaches people how to run properly and helps them find the right shoes and accessories, equipment, supplements, books, training equipment that will help them become better runners, then it's worth putting up a new business for this. So the very next step I did was to call Ayala Malls and say, hey, I have a concept for a new business. that I want to show you guys. Can I set a meeting to present? And they said, yeah, okay, maybe we'll give you an appointment 3 weeks from now. Oh, sorry, I said, but I want to put it in Bonnie High Street. And they said, I'm sorry, there's no vacancies in Bonnie High Street. Well, I think if I showed you the concept, you guys will really like it. I think Fernando will like it because knowing that Fernando was a triathlete and this was a running store. They said, okay, maybe sige, we'll take a look at it. 3 weeks from now, why don't you come over and present to us? And so I put down the phone. I now had an appointment, but all I had was the logo. At that point, nothing but the logo. That's all I had, and some ideas in my head. So the next step I put on my things to-do list was make a deck about, on the runner concept. And in that 3-week span, I put together 2-week span. Sorry, I put together a deck. And long story short, we made that presentation. I made that presentation 2 weeks later. I forced myself to make a presentation because that was due in 2 weeks. And I came out of that meeting and they said, you know what? You're right. Fernando will like this. We'll find a space for you. I said, yeah, but I thought everything was occupied. Yeah, everything's occupied, but we'll figure out a way to give you a space. And we finally got the space that where Runner is now. No, and it was right at the epicenter of the running boom in 2009. And it won, new store of the year first year, and then store of the year for Ayala Malls the second year, on its second year. No, so that turned out really well. And to think it just started from a few to-dos on my things task list.
I like what you said, though, and I think what I really picked up from this is you had an idea, and you were one of those people who just didn't let it be an idea, but you moved on it, right? So like what they say, right? Ideas only idea unless you move on it. And of course, in a very competitive world that we have right now, anyone can just get that idea and run with it, and you'll only have yourself to blame. But you moved on it. The persistence was there, calling for that meeting. And then, of course, you did your research on something that was new to you. And, like what you said, forcing yourself to come up with a presentation and really get into the groove of things and be passionate about the sport, so that when you finally ended up putting up that store, it really was a reflection of you and your hard work and your passion. And it's a newly found passion. So that's great. I like where this is going. So, my last question is, looking at what you've achieved, in your lifetime, excelling in sports, excelling in the family biz, and then setting up Runner, what is it that our audience can learn from your journey?
I think the biggest thing that I learned, personally, was that I found a way to kick it up another gear. Despite being I was in 08, I was probably in my mid-30s already. And, I'd been in the business for already 10 years at the time. And yet, even as late as that, because I picked up a new, a few new habits and develop that willpower muscle, maybe because of my fitness regimen and just being so much more productive as an individual physically. It came together, and I think Power of Habit said it best. No, fitness is a cornerstone habit. Exercise specifically is a cornerstone habit. If you exercise enough, it leads to so many more improvements in the way you live. In my case, the way I worked, and the way I started things, and it became addictive actually. So knowing that it's not that hard to. It turns out it wasn't that hard to start a new business, but it took me all of 35 years to finally start my own business. Diba? But it turns out it wasn't that hard. 2 years later, I wanted to do it again, and that's how I started Urban Athletics, our sports lifestyle sneaker concept. And that also went on to become, pretty successful also. And then in the same year, sorry, in that whole stretch, '09 to 2011, that was, really ultra productive for me. In 2010, I took on the presidency of Junior Chamber International. And for 1 year, I was holding down two jobs, basically. President of the biggest JCI chapter in the Philippines, one of the biggest in the world, no? And being president of Quorum. I was promoted to president in '09. So I had just become president of our family business in '09. And I became JC president '10. And I was able, and I finished my first triathlon in Ironman in '10 also. So, I juggled all three things in pretty much the same year. Launched runner in '09 also. And it just became, it became so much easier to do more things, and even to do them all at the same time because of the habit. So siguro the analogy is swimming, biking, and running, because I had this new system. I got coached by David Allen and Charles Duhigg, the authors of those two books, and I applied all the skills that they taught me. I became a pretty competitive entrepreneur all of a sudden. No, so the lesson I took away from that is, man, it's really never too late to learn how to be better at something. No, I think reading also became a habit. My dad was a big reader. I got it from him. I always saw a lot of business books at home that my dad would read, even when he was, a successful businessman already. And, it kind of struck me, why are you still reading? You're already very successful. And I think that rubbed off on me also. Parang now I really, I alternate. I always read a business book or a productivity or life hack book. Tim Ferriss is also one of my favorites. No, the 4-Hour Work Week for Our Body, and then a sports book. So one teaches me how to be better at work, and then one inspires me to with the lives of really successful athletes. So now I'm reading cycling books. So yeah, I think that's the takeaway really. To answer your question, I think you can really learn continuously. Learning something is one of the best things you can do, and it pays off.
That's quite an accomplishment, and and to add also, you're creating good habits, in the process, and really making sure that you work hard towards a certain goal, like what you do. All these things that you've accomplished, and you really reap the fruits of your labor. So I hope the audience has taken note on that. Trying to be productive, and it's quite very insightful, as I said. So thanks a lot, Tobes. So I'll turn you over now to Simone.
So there's so much to learn from your story, and you've shared a lot today on your work hacks for productivity. And if you were to summarize from what you've talked about today, what can we learn from your experience on how to work like a champion?
Maybe three things lang. Exercise is a cornerstone habit. Without me getting injured and being forced to develop a really good exercise regimen, training for triathlon, I think that led to everything else. No. And yeah, I really believe in, you have to get a dose of cardio almost every day. And it doesn't have to be long, as long as you sweat it out and get some blood flowing. Second is figure out what habits you want to pick up. No, what habits you think will help you the most. And those habits can be found everywhere. No, if you wanna be more fit, lose weight, there are habits for that. If you wanna work better, faster, more productive, be able to start new businesses, there are places to learn habits for that, the right habits for that. So I'm a big Amazon fan and Audible fan. The audiobooks version of Amazon. And that's one of my favorite hacks also to read up without reading. Just listening. So last Saturday I did a 7-hour ride and ended up finishing 2 books. So that was a really productive day on the bike. And then last nga is it's never too late to learn. And learning itself is really a skill. And it can be really addictive. So in my case, I think I've always liked learning new things. But sometimes you don't have the drive for it. That's why one and two help a lot. No, exercise and then finding a habit, figuring out how to incorporate learning into your habits, and just continuously learning all throughout my life is something that I think helped me the most.
And there you have it. So allow me to recap into 3 tips of what we got from Toby sharing today on how to work like a champion. So number 1, embrace and develop right habits, exercise habits, and learning habits to improve your productivity. Just like how Toby developed a good regular exercise regimen that gets him pumped up for work. And number 2, find a system that works for you and helps you overcome those unproductive bouts. Just like how Toby's using the getting things done method, and make sure you figure out that next step. And number 3, put down that goal or vision into writing and commit to it, reinforce it with your habits and your system. So thank you very much, Toby, for sharing your experience and lessons with us. And now it's time for our next segment that we call Crunch Time. All right, Toby. So we're gonna throw you some questions, and you're gonna have to answer them as fast as you can. So there's no need to explain unless you can't help but ask. So are you ready?
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Shoot.
All right. First off, biking or triathlon?
Biking right now. Yeah.
Favorite running shoe brand?
Let's
go.
That's a tough one. Right now it's Brooks.
Oh, okay.
Favorite race venue?
Ooh. Cebu. Yeah.
Favorite sports icon?
Ooh, icon. Oh, so many. Oh man. So many. Really San Agustin.
Nice.
Jordan. Cliche, but Jordan, yeah.
The goat. Most memorable sports experience?
Finishing my first Ironman 70.3. Making it out of the water.
Other sport you could excel in other than multi-sport?
But I can excel it. I want to be good at golf. It's such a challenging sport, but it takes so much time and effort. Yeah, it frustrates me to no end. Yeah.
I agree. Your favorite sports film?
Senna.
Nice. End goals or process goals?
Process.
Hobbies in life apart from sports?
DJing.
Nice. That's great.
Nice.
Favorite non-sports film?
Oh man.
It's okay with the chick flicks, man. It's okay.
Yeah. To all the boys? No, just kidding. That's the last movie I watched. Favorite non-sports film. All my favorite films are sports films, documentaries. That's a tough one. Forrest Gump, no. Can I take a Top Gun?
Nice.
All right, Maverick.
Favorite color?
Blue. Toby's blue.
Favorite food?
Favorite food. Sisig. It's not healthy at all, but manam sisig, man. After a long ride, that's yeah.
Skills learned during the pandemic.
I bike for triathlon, but now I can consider myself a real cyclist. Cycling as a serious skill. Yeah,
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
learn everything instantly. Learn anything instantly.
That's so great.
Yeah. The Matrix. Download it. Yeah.
Okay, North Luzon or South Luzon?
Ooh, that's tough. Cycling up in the north is so nice, but the beaches down south are so nice too. South.
Favorite book.
Favorite book. Power of Habit.
Okay, person who made the biggest impact in your life?
My dad.
Good, great.
Life purpose in 3 words.
Be my best.
Alternative career.
What would I do if I didn't have to work, right? Sorry, an author maybe.
Okay, the last one. Favorite quote?
Ooh, favorite quote. Quote to live by. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. By the GOAT.
That's great.
Solid way to end our crunch time. So thank you, Toby, for sharing your time and being game to join us today. And now we've come to the end of the episode for our final messages. So Relly and Robbie, let's share with our teammates what we have in store for them in our next episodes.
So there you have it, folks. On behalf of the Gold Diggers, I would like to thank you for joining us tonight, especially Toby Claudio. Please do share your thoughts with us on our Facebook page and tag the Gold Diggers PH. Or you can post or comment on our video uploads on Facebook and YouTube. We'd really love to hear from you guys. Thank you also to everyone who's followed us on our Facebook page and subscribed to our YouTube page. If you haven't liked or followed us, we hope you can click that button and continue to dig with us. Tune in next week as we dig in with former Ateneo and current Creamline Cool Smasher volleyball phenom, Alyssa Valdez. Got any questions for Alyssa? Hit us up on our Facebook page. See you guys. Good night. Robbie?
Thank you, Relly. So, Toby, your life story so far is of continuous learning and development in the pursuit of excellence. And we really thank you so much for the time, the wisdom, the experience that you shared with us, and for the rest of our listeners. So, thanks to people like you, there's a lot we can learn from sports and especially in setting up our champion productivity habits. So, maraming salamat. To our teammates, we're very happy to share that we've officially launched this season in a press conference hosted by, of course, the Philippine Sports Writers Association. So this year, we mentioned that we have the ambitious mission of helping uplift and progress Philippine sports by inspiring and helping uncover Filipino potential, promoting sports and holistic health, and by providing training and support through the Gold Diggers' podcasts, our advocacy pitch and PH, and finally our learning series, all available on our social media pages. And we couldn't do this without the support of our friends over at the media to help get the word out. So once again, to our teammates in the Philippine Sports Writers Association, maraming salamat po. So lastly, once again, let's continue the fundraising on our advocacy pitch and PH. Let's continue helping out fellow Filipinos who are in most need. So please follow our Facebook page for more details on how you too can learn how to pitch in for PH. So finally, over to the man of the hour, Toby Claudio, your final message for the episode, please.
I just want to thank you guys for inviting me on the show and giving me a chance to share some of my experiences. I hope some of those experiences can help others find that trigger, that cornerstone habit that can kick off more success for them also. So thanks a lot, guys. It's fun being on the show.
Super thanks again, Toby. We had fun also with you tonight. So we hope everyone else enjoyed this episode with Toby Claudio on how to work like a champion. And that ends our session for today. So catch you on the next episode of the Goal Diggers. Remember to dream, dig in, and win. See you and take care.